Hello, Donna here. Welcome to my channel, Transcending Trauma, Speaking to Solutions. I still don't know where to look when it's on the long angle. It's so annoying. So I'll just look off into the distance. So, I think it's day 57 of the Defying the Narcissist. And what that's about is sort of like overcoming some of the habits to stay small, to protect ourselves, things like just adaptations that we take on to the way we live that we had to for survival during, abusive connections. So I'm personally am out now. I think like on some other videos too, where there is a difference between being out of the relationship and doing these practices and being in the relationship and doing these practices. These adaptations protected us and kept us safe while we were in a unsafe environment, unsafe connection. So I just want to make that clear that these Defying the Narcissist tips are generally geared towards being out of that connection and how to overcome some of the stuff that we're left with afterwards. So if you're still in it, these adaptations that you've created for safety may still be keeping you safe. And I highly suggest that you work at getting out of that connection. No one deserves to live a life where they're being abused, physically, psychologically, verbally, emotionally, any of those. They all have very devastating effects on the human being. So I hope you find a way out of there. So unfortunately, once you do, I noticed this pattern with myself and others, and I had talked to a social worker about it, and she said, absolutely, that's what happened. So when you're in a situation, sometimes you can't even see how bad it is because you're not in reflective mode. You're not in that front mind, looking at what's happening. You're in survival. So, you just do things to get through, to create peace, to protect self, all these adaptations. And then kind of right when you get out of it, you will be hit with some elation, it'll be like, gosh, the first time that I could actually pay my bills because, someone didn't take all the money away, like to have that control and actually create a lot of anxiety in my life. But, after kind of that like time of bliss, you can actually get sadder than when you were in it because now you're in reflective mode where you have enough space and there's enough safety where you start reflecting and you're like, holy wow, I lived through a lot, like that was awful, and so like it's almost worse than being in it because you're out of survival and you're starting to like, have enough space to really reflect on what you lived through. And that there's different schools of thought on that. I mean, first of all, I think it's a natural process that just happens. So you can't really just say, oh, don't reflect, You can push it down, what's called denial, And I think the good thing about reflecting and, it can definitely be really hard. It's good to have safe other, whether that's a therapist or a really good friend that is kind and can hold space without judgment and accusations. And because, man, did I get that? Well, why did you stay so long? And, like things like that don't help people that are coming out of trauma, out of an abusive relationship. That's a cruel thing to say. And, but the reflection is good because it keeps us from repeating those patterns. Because most likely, if you never reflect, then you just keep allowing because there's no rebuilding of the unconscious, So most likely, you had to do a lot of denial to stay in that relationship. And so when your being wants you to reflect now, they're saying, your deep unconscious, your nervous system is relaxed enough to reflect and help you to not live through these traumatic events anymore. I mean, it's called repetition compulsion in psychology. And, it's the same, like if you lived through abuse, you most likely have the tendency to stay in abusive relationships because you've learned how to adapt and tolerate. So that's what I want to help with, is to learn how to untangle these unhealthy adaptations. So I wanted today to talk about check yourself, that phrase, which is usually someone being condescending when someone is reacting to something, saying check yourself. And well, that's usually a statement to belittle someone. I actually think it's a good practice, because the thing is, it's not an either or. It's not a black and white. I know that most people that have lived through abusive relationships, we took on the adaptation of being responsible for other people's moods and other people's behaviors, like really responsible for it. And it's a habit that we need to break, because one, it's very energy draining to, walk on eggshells and try to, control someone else's mood. It's near impossible because you aren't inside of their body controlling them. But at the same time, also, we do influence each other. So if I come storming into a room screaming and yelling, I am going to evoke a certain behavior from someone. I am going to evoke a certain reaction. So that's why I think check yourself is good. If someone's coming at you with a bunch of anger, well, it's hard, because you can get put into that survival and that primal mode, which is defensive and not reflective. But let's say that you're reflecting and you're not in defense mode or primal mind or survival. And you can check yourself and say, are these accusations this person is making me responsible for their mood? Is there any validity to them? And also we could even say, even if you came into a room storming and angry, naturally someone is going to have a nervous system reaction. It will trigger a fight or flight reaction. Like, none of us are made of stone. If you are, you're most likely a psychopath or a malignant narcissist. So, to have a reaction is normal and human. We don't want to become stones. We want to be connected to our emotions, their guidance and data. When someone comes in screaming at me, my emotions are data to help me take action to seek safety, but also if my reaction is to come at them with as much fight as they're bringing in, now we've got two dysregulated people, two nervous systems out of whack. So it's hard. It's really hard in the moment, and again, context, it depends. Like if someone's attacking you, go into fight or flight, man. Get the frick out of there, I'm more talking about someone just losing their temper with you. And trying to breathe through it and say, hey, I see you're extremely activated right now and you're yelling at me. When you can have a calm conversation with me, I would like to hear what's upsetting you. It's very hard to do, but, practicing that. And then checking yourself, like, hear what they're saying. Like, was I doing something to trigger their own nervous system? Like, I had something yesterday I shared with a friend. I saw someone that I hadn't seen in a little while, and they were extremely cold and rude to me. And So like, I don't want to deeply personalize that. It could be a million things. That person may just be going through something really hard, and who knows, was it appropriate to be cold and cruel to someone? Maybe not, but who knows? Who knows? But I had to check myself for a second and think back to my interactions with this person. Did I give them a reason to be cold and cruel to me? So I checked myself and I went through my database, my mind, and there wasn't something that I could recall. And so then I let it go because I didn't do something to evoke a cold, cruel reaction from them. So I think it's about those percentages too, like not the black and white, all of those nuances in between. I can pretty much say I was near the 100% end of not at all responsible for their reaction or behavior. In other situations, I might reflect back and think, oh yeah, last time I saw them, I snapped at them. They're probably still upset about that. Like, we can't check ourselves, like sometimes the way someone acts is a direct reflection to an interaction they had with us, So, I mean, we can check ourselves and, we can repair where we want to with the relationships we want to. We can say, oh, hey, oh gosh, I forgot we had that riff last time I saw you, like I'd like to talk about that. This is how I was feeling. This is what, like help me understand, just working on that. So again, defying the narcissist. Don't just always 100% be responsible for everyone's behavior and emotions. That was an adaptation we did to create safety during traumatic experiences, to calm down someone that was aggressive, that if they weren't calm, they could lose control and hurt us. So we learned how to become responsible for others' behaviors. But defying the narcissist and stop being 100% responsible for everyone's behaviors and emotions. That's not on you. That's a heavy weight to carry, And again, it was an adaptation made to protect self. But once you're out of situations like that where you have safety and you have autonomy, where you can control yourself and you don't have an aggressor, over you, creating an unsafe environment, then you can start reflecting, check yourself, and, only take the responsibility that is yours and leave the rest with the other person. Sometimes if I see someone has kind of these patterns of behavior, that they often hand me a big pile of caca, a big pile of anxiety or whatever, I don't let it drive me so much anymore. I take it with a taste of salt, a pinch of salt. How's that saying go? A taste of salt. So like when they say something, I know I've already experienced patterns with this person. With a grain of salt, that's what it is. So I take what they say with a grain of salt. Like, okay, this person's already shown me who they are and how they are and the things they say. Like I'm going to take what they say with a grain of salt. It's just not going to have that much impact on me because they've already shown me what they say is not trustworthy. So, all right. So peace out. That's it. Just 57 days now, 60 days to make a habit become a new unconscious pattern, rewiring our brain to let go of these adaptations that once created safety but are now not really great for us. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of too much shame in that, too much weight to take 100 full responsibility for others' behaviors, and others' moods. Don't do that. But check yourself, see what percentage you have in that interaction and only take accountability for the percentage that is yours after you've checked yourself. All right. Peace out. Bye.